Hello my soccer universe, to a review of round 31 of the Austrian Bundesliga, and I would argue the Austrian Bundesliga has the best finish of any league, at least of the ones that I'm covering in Europe, with 3 teams still in contention for the championship and 3 teams still in the contention to being relegated. And yes, that makes this league very exciting. However, does it mean it's a good league? That is another question, because, Salzburg used to be the stalwart. They're not in any contention for that, although they might still snatch a second spot if things fall their way. I'm, of course, varying, as always, LASK. LASK suffered the first defeat in the qualification round against GRK, who got a huge win. It meant a whole lot more for GRK than it did for LASK, as LASK were already secured in a first place. And actually that has me a little bit worried for the playoff. Fortunately, Hartberg, their second place already sealed. So yeah, there's not too much to play for these two teams until they meet in the playoff semi-final, which is Monday in a week from now. So yeah. But I really don't want to talk much about LASK, although there's plenty to talk about with the new sporting director, blah, 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 blah. But I want to focus for once really on the league, because that's exciting. We can talk about LASK more towards the end of the season. So, I already said, top and bottom very much up for grabs. However, there were 2 decisions on this weekend. The first one is that from the second league, we know who's going to get promoted. It is SV Ried, not too far from Linz. So we have 3 teams from Upper Austria next season in the Bundesliga. They won in Bregenz, whereas their closest rival, Admira, lost at Liefering, and so they cannot be caught in the last round anymore. The other decision that we have is that Rapid have a 5th spot, and now we know everything about how the Conference League playoff will work out. Whoever wins LASK against Hartberg will have to play in a home and away leg against Rapid. So that is already decided. It's also curious that Rapid have not only beaten Austria in the last round, where they almost kicked Austria Vienna out of the title race, but now by winning against Sturm Graz, so against the first and the second strongest teams arguably in the league, they very much got Austria Vienna back into the title race, and I'm not sure that they really wanted that. But I know I'm getting very much ahead of myself. Let's review the 6 matches that happened on this weekend before we talk a little bit more about the situation in the league. Altach also failed to win their second final at home, only playing out a 0-0 draw against Klagenfurt. In the first half, they were the dominant team and put Klagenfurt very much on the back foot. However, in the second half, Klagenfurt came out and in the end had actually really good chances, none bigger than Bobzin, who just misses a more or less open net in stoppage time. And so it goes in the last round. Klagenfurt still in last place. However, Altach very much in danger as they go away to LASK. The draw in Altach also meant that GRK was not yet safe, despite beating LASK 1-0. First loss for LASK in the qualification round, but I have to say it was a game that didn't really mean much for them and also didn't go their way, because GRK put some pressure on LASK early on, and then Andrade takes down Zippot, who from a very acute angle would have run straight on goal. I thought it was a relatively harsh red card, because there were 2 LASK defenders that could have gotten him. It was not clear denying of goal scoring opportunity, but the writing was on the wall. LASK then sitting deep, GRK controlling the game. However, it took a while until they finally created chances. However, when they did, there was a shot that went wide that Schutzenauer just looked past, would have surely been a goal, and then Zippot also hit the post. Second half though, LASK came out and created chances, had the best one through a Schul free kick where he hit the crossbar, but there were other chances in there as well. But then as long as the game went, the more GRK again took over control, and in the end it is Satin who finds Zippot, completely forgotten by the LASK defense, who then lobs goalie Schützenauer for the 1-0. And there was really not much coming from LASK anymore, and GRK deservedly get the 3 points. 3 points ahead of Klagenfurt. However, Klagenfurt would have the tiebreaker, so GRK not quite safe yet. With free beers given out in Hartberg, there were plenty of people coming to support their team, who then secure their spot in the playoff semifinal at LASK thanks to a 3-2 win over Tirol. However, it was not a straightforward one because WSG actually had the lead through a Hinterseher goal in the first half and even had another goal then disallowed. Hartberg then in the second half was much better in the game, had a goal early on disallowed, but then a Müller own goal in the 71st minute gets scores level, enough for Hartberg to secure the second spot in the qualification round. Huskovic turns it around in the 83rd. Blumedo gets the equalizer, which would have kept things still interesting, but then Jed Drew runs through on goal and has an empty net in front of him in stoppage time as Tirol were pushing for the win. In the final home game of the season, Blau-Weiß Linz lose at home to Red Bull Salzburg 2-1, meaning they will finish for sure bottom of the qualification round. However, it looked quite well because after 9 minutes, after a brilliant attack, Anderson plays it over to Simon Seidel, who one times it into the net. And Blau-Weiß Linz were always dangerous on the counter-attack, and Salzburg, who had not won in the new Blau-Weiß Stadium until today, were actually dominant but had a hard time breaking down Blau-Weiß Linz. Blau-Weiß Linz even scored a second goal that was disallowed, but the longer the game went, the more the class of Salzburg shone through. And in the 79th minute, Radkov, after a Baidu cross, heads it in for the equalizer, and Baidu then himself, deep in stoppage time, gets the winner to get the Blau-Weiß monkey off Salzburg's back. After a rather lackluster championship round, Rapid get a second win in a row and they beat Sturm Graz 3-1 at home and throw the championship race wide open with that win. It was a brilliant atmosphere, sold out stadium, plenty of Sturm Graz fans in the stadium, as well as Sturm Graz could have clinched the title today, but it was Rapid who take the lead after a long-range shot by Boller, who never had scored in the Bundesliga, via the inside of the crossbar into the net. Absolute brilliant goal, I gotta say. And while the game went up and down and left and right, and it was really high intensity, it was Rapid who had the rub of the green, so to speak, and they even doubled the lead with Burgstaller cross again from outside of the box into the corner. It was hard to see for Hjelskerpen, but it was still a goal that I think he would like to have back. In the second half, then Sturm Graz took control of the game and got a deserved goal back through Grigic in the 66th minute. And with that goal, they fully had control of the game. However, they were also susceptible to counter-attacks. There was one run on the right side where Boller takes a shot that is blocked, comes via Kara back to Boller, who on the rebound then makes it 3-1. Sturm Graz desperately tried to get back into the game. However, it ends with a 3-1 win for Rapid. And curiously enough, that was exactly the result that their eternal rivals Austria Vienna needed to stay in the title race, and they also needed to beat Wolfsberg, who played for the first time in their history in front of a sold-out crowd, almost 8,000 people there, because they knew if they win out, they will be champions. However, the game didn't really go their way. I mean, first off, they lost Dominik Baumgartner due to injury, and then Austria Vienna largely controlled the game, however could not find the breakthrough until the beginning of the second half, and or in the 46th minute Gruber finds Malone, who, a former Wolfsberg player, puts it into net in the 46th minute, and a little bit later it is a corner kick by Fitz that Manfred Fischer heads home. And in addition, Piesinger injured himself on the play and he had to come off later as well. So two stalwarts in defense for Wolfsberg had to come out. But Coach Kübauer again made some adjustments, and he has been very good this season with that. And with that, Wolfsberg find themselves back into the game, and after Matic cross, Omic heads it in, and a little bit later, Diabate had a huge chance. He hit the crossbar, and there was another one where it just went wide. On the other side, Fitz also hit the inside of the post, and then out it went. So it could have gone with a win for Austria Vienna. I think overall Austria Vienna deserved to win this one, and they are now very much back into this title race. So, after round 31, the standings are as we see here, and let's talk about the relegation battle on the bottom. GRK looks safe with a 3-point cushion. However, if Klagenfurt were level with GRK, then Klagenfurt, because their points got rounded down, would own the tiebreaker. So have that in mind. GRK still need a single point. Whereas Altach, with a win, would secure survival. However, Altach have to go 2. LASK, whereas Klagenfurt host Hartberg at home, so probably the slightly easier task for Klagenfurt, but I think this is really exciting. We already said the top 2 are already decided, and then if we go one level up, Blau-Weiß is in 6th place, will not go anywhere into Europe. Rapid will finish in 5th place, we know that already. Salzburg could potentially, but it's an outside chance, end up in the Champions League, but it's for the title where it's really interesting. With the top 3 teams all having a chance of winning the title. The only team that have it in their own hands at this moment is Sturm Graz. If they should get at least a single point in their last game against Wolfsberg, they are champions. So that is a very comfortable position. It's also a home game. However, against Wolfsberg, Sturm Graz have had their troubles, losing twice already. And at the beginning of this championship round, they drew rather luckily as well. However, should Wolfsberg win, then if Austria Vienna win, they would own the tiebreaker. However, if Austria Vienna, who play Blau-Weiß Linz at home, do not win and Wolfsberg win, then they are champions. So you see all the permutations there. It is rather interesting. However, still very much advantage Sturm Graz to actually repeat as champions. And we cannot really discuss the league without talking about the games that happened, but here they are again. We have on Friday evening, so it's not Friday and Saturday because the playoff then happens on Monday. So that's why the games in the qualification round or relegation group already played on Friday. Klagenfurt hosting Hartberg. The game doesn't mean for Hartberg. They have 2nd place secured. So with a win, Klagenfurt gives themselves a chance. But the same situation goes for LASK against Altach. LASK don't have their fans again showing up, and so Altach probably have a chance. And Altach actually kicks out the bad form for LASK this season with a win in Linz in the 2nd round. So that is not an impossibility, and GRK probably will get their point at Tirol. At least that's what I would assume. Going on the bottom, the title candidates, we have Sturm Graz against Wolfsberg. It's a final. As I said, Sturm Graz need a point. They're champions. So it actually looks not too bad for them. Austria Vienna need to beat Blau-Weiß Linz. And then the big matchup between Red Bull and Rapid has not much riding on it. Maybe for Red Bull because they should, for instance, Wolfsberg lose, they potentially could overtake them and end up in a 3rd place. And if Austria Vienna drop points, then they would finish 2nd if they beat Rapid. However, this is all relatively unlikely. And note, even if they should leapfrog Wolfsberg already are in the Europa League. So, it doesn't really change much for Salzburg in that sense. So this was it from me from round 31 of the Austrian Bundesliga. I honestly have to tell you, since LASK is not really involved in any of the big decisions, I can watch this very much as a neutral, and I find this a rather exciting setup, I have to say. Both the relegation battle and the top level as well. I gotta say that I'm at least happy that Altach still have something to play for in their game against LASK next week. So if I go there, it will not be just a glorified friendly, and you see a little bit of a warm-up for the big playoff game, which counts more. And I have to say, hosting Hartberg at home, Hartberg have not lost in Linz since Corona time, so that has me actually a little bit worried. But again, not too much about LASK. It's all about the Austrian Bundesliga on the top, the championship. It's just so mad, and I really cannot see who's winning. I think that now Wolfsberg probably have the worst chance because they lost at home, whereas Sturm Graz the best one. But 2 outside chances for Austria Wien and Wolfsberg. I actually think that will be Sturm Graz and Austria finishing in 1 and 2. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I'll talk to you soon about more things in my Austrian Bundesliga universe. Bye! Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, here are some videos and playlists that you may enjoy too. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the little bell icon so you get notified whenever something happens in my soccer universe. And with that, have a wonderful day. Bye!